You are listening to The Vocal Technologist. Spoken tech for your ears.
Hello and welcome back. It is Friday, February 13th, 2026. A slightly ominous date for a show about the future of technology, don't you think?
It feels a little like the beginning of a horror movie for some of the, legacy software companies, honestly.
It really does. But look,
Yeah.
we are going to bend space-time a little bit today. Even though it is Friday, we're treating this as a Product Thursday episode.
Special Friday edition.
Exactly. I'm doing this mostly because the stack of research on my desk about product management is just, well, it's staring at me. And it feels way too urgent to let sit over the weekend.
Urgent is absolutely the right word. We aren't just talking about a new version of Jira or like a slightly faster way to write user stories.
Yeah.
The actual definition of what it even means to build software is being rewritten right now.
That is the vibe I'm getting. It feels like we are watching the role of the product manager just dissolve and reform into something completely different, all in real time. We're talking agentic engineering,
Yeah.
the rise of the technical PM, and this concept that, honestly, I'm still trying to wrap my head around, the death of the backlog.
It's the end of an era for the good old backlog. Yeah.
We're also going to get into why waiting is the new silent killer of productivity, and why, and I'm really looking forward to this, you probably shouldn't trust that fancy design agency that claims they can build your SaaS platform.
You might make a few enemies with that segment, but, it has to be said.
Good. I like making enemies on a Friday. But okay, let's start with the big shift, the technical PM.
Right.
For the last, 10 years, if you saw a job posting for a technical product manager, it usually just meant, can you read API docs without crying?
Or can you talk to engineers without making them angry? Pretty much. It was about literacy, not fluency.
Right.
You needed to understand the concept so you could prioritize the work. But the actual execution, the coding, that was strictly for the engineering team.
But all this stuff we're looking at today suggests that wall is just, it's coming down.
It's crumbling. I mean, if you look at who the top AI labs and the really aggressive startups are hiring right now, the job description has totally changed. They're not looking for idea people who just write specs anymore. They want people who can run evaluations, who can understand model trade-offs, and increasingly, people who can actually code the prototypes themselves using AI tools.
So the expectation is no longer write a ticket for a feature, it's build me the prototype.
Exactly. And this is all being driven by tools like Claude Code or these agentic workflows. It
Yeah.
used to be that if a PM wanted to test an idea, they had to, wait for an engineer to have bandwidth.
Did it in line. Right.
Right. Now, you can spin up a working prototype in 20 minutes. So if you're a PM and you can't do that, if you're still waiting for permission to build, you're the new bottleneck.
This connects directly to that headline that just stopped me in my tracks.
Yeah.
About the backlog going poof.
Yeah.
I want to push on this because, the backlog is the security blanket of product management.
Yeah.
It's where we put things so we don't forget them. How does it just vanish?
Well, think about the mechanics of a backlog. Like, why does it even exist in the first place?
It's a queue.
It's a queue. It exists because the demand for features always exceeds the supply of engineering hours. You have 50 ideas, the team can only build 5. So 45 go into the backlog graveyard.
Right. It's a scarcity management tool.
But what happens when these AI coding agents increase your velocity by like an order of magnitude? Suddenly that cost of execution just drops to near zero for a ton of tasks.
And if you can build the thing as fast as you can think of it, the queue collapses.
The queue collapses, and that is the critical shift. The constraint is no longer execution, how long will this take to code? The constraint becomes judgment, should we actually build this at all?
That's both terrifying and liberating at the same time.
Yeah.
It feels like we're moving from an era of construction to an era of curation.
That's a great way to put it. The research even calls the actual coding part mundane.
Mundane.
Yes. When you can generate a whole complex UI and the back-end logic in an afternoon, the magic of just making software work kind of fades away.
You don't get a gold star for shipping anymore.
No, you get evaluated on whether you shipped the right thing, which means if you're a PM who just moves tickets around, you are in adapt or be replaced territory.
Okay, let's talk about these agents. Because agentic engineering sounds very sci-fi. I'm picturing a digital employee. I tell it, build me a CRM, I go get a sandwich, and it's done.
Yeah.
But looking at the breakdown of failures, like that replit situation, that seems like a complete fantasy.
It is a dangerous fantasy, and this is where the nuance is so, so important. There's a massive difference between an autonomous agent and a workflow.
Okay, break that down for me.
An autonomous agent is non-deterministic. You give it a high-level goal, and it just figures out the steps.
Yeah.
The problem is, in a production environment, it hallucinates. It gets stuck in loops.
So it's like hiring a really, really fast intern who is also hallucinating.
And who has root access to your entire code base. Not a great idea.
Well.
And that's why we saw Replit and others stumble when they tried to let agents just run wild. The whole industry is pivoting hard to workflows with constrained LLM components.
That sounds significantly less sexy than robot employee.
It's way less sexy, but it actually works. Think of it like an assembly line. Step 1 isn't figure it out. Step 1 is AI, generate the specific SQL query. Step 2 is a rigid code-based syntax check. Step 3 is AI, format the chart. Step 4 is human review.
So you're constraining the AI. You're not letting it drive the car. You're just letting it turn a specific wrench.
Precisely. And that constraint is what lets you actually trust the output. And trust is the currency here, because without it, you fall right into the visual trap.
Oh, man. I think I've fallen into this trap before.
Mm.
Is this where the software looks finished, but it's not?
Yes. It's the Potemkin village effect.
Mm.
AI is unbelievably good at generating polished UIs. You see a beautiful dashboard, clean CSS, everything looks perfect. So your brain just assumes, wow, this is done.
But the buttons don't actually do anything.
Or worse, they do something totally wrong. The backend logic is a mess. The security permissions are wide open. But because the artifact quality, the visual look, is so high, we skip the validation steps. We confuse pretty with functional.
That is a very dangerous spot to be in. Feels like we need to be more paranoid now, not less.
Paranoia is a healthy trait for the modern technical PM, for sure.
Speaking of mental states, let's pivot to the psychology of working this way. We have this whole narrative that AI makes everything faster. But there was this point in the notes that really stuck with me. Waiting is the new interruption.
It's such a counterintuitive problem. We're used to software being binary.
Yeah.
You click save, it saves, it's instant. Or you run a massive compile that takes 20 minutes, so you go play ping pong.
Right. It's either instant or it's a genuine break.
But working with LLMs introduces variable latency. You ask the model to generate some code. Maybe it takes 5 seconds. Maybe it takes 45.
Oh, it's the spinning wheel of death, but for your brain.
It just fragments your attention. You can't switch tasks because it might finish any second, so you just sit there hovering. This state of continuous partial attention absolutely destroys deep work.
It's like waiting for someone to finish typing a text. You
Yeah.
see the little bubbles, so you can't put your phone down, but they just keep typing.
Exactly
Banana.
that. And the research suggests this is a huge productivity killer that isn't showing up on any dashboard.
Yeah.
Leaders are looking at the output and saying, why aren't we faster? But the team is spending like 30% of their day in this weird cognitive limbo.
So how do you solve for that? Just buy faster GPUs.
I mean, that helps, but the real fix is organizational. You have to redesign the workflow itself. We're moving from manual execution to what they're calling orchestrating intelligence systems.
Orchestrating?
Yeah. It means designing work so it's asynchronous. You define the intent, you queue it up, and you move on to the next decision while the system executes. You just can't sit and watch the paint dry anymore.
Managing intent. I feel like that's going to be the title of my memoir. But if we're managing intent and moving at this insane speed, how do we measure if we're actually winning? Because the traditional metrics seem to be breaking down.
This brings us to the velocity trap. And honestly, this is where most product teams are going to crash and burn in 2026.
That sounds dramatic.
It is. There's this point that should be tattooed on every PM's arm. When shipping outpaces adoption, velocity turns into waste.
Wait, unpack that for me. Because shipping fast has been the golden rule of Silicon Valley for 20 years.
Yeah.
Move fast and break things right.
But if you use AI to build 10 new features this sprint, and your customers only have the mental bandwidth to learn one, what did you actually do?
You confuse them.
You created confusion, you created 9 units of tech debt, 9 units of maintenance overhead, and a bloated UI. You didn't add value, you added noise.
So we're producing features faster than the market can actually digest them.
Correct. And that links directly to the circular logic of metrics. We tend to measure what's loud, daily active users, features shipped, lines of code. Why?
Because they're easy to measure. The dashboard dazzle.
Right. But real strategy usually means resisting those loud metrics. Just because you can measure something doesn't mean it matters. You have to ask, Did this actually solve a real problem, or did we just make a number go up?
It reminds me of that bit about planning the Sisyphean tragedy, which, by the way, is a great band name.
Totally. And it challenges the whole idea of push-based planning,
Yeah.
the classic roadmap. In Q3, we will build X, Y, and Z.
Which is basically just lying to yourself on a spreadsheet.
It's always been a lie, but in an AI world where capacity fluctuates and the bottleneck is judgment, not coding, it's fatal. You need pull-based systems. You don't pull new work until the current work is truly done.
Meaning adopted and validated, not just coded.
Exactly.
Okay, I want to switch gears to something that made me actually laugh out loud when I read it.
Oh.
The call out to the agencies.
Oh, yeah.
Every design agency in New York claims they specialize in sauce.
And they're lying.
Why are we beefing with the design agencies? Is it just because they wear better turtlenecks than we do?
It's not about the fashion, it's about the plumbing. There is a fundamental technical difference between building a marketing site, which most agencies are great at, and building a real sauce application.
Okay, explain the difference for someone who just thinks a website is a website.
A marketing site is generally stateless. It's about presentation, visual impact, storytelling. But a sauce product, that is all about state management.
Okay.
It's about complex permission structures, who's an admin, who's a viewer, can user A see user B's data. It's about multi-tenant architecture.
The unsexy stuff.
The plumbing, if you get the plumbing wrong in a sauce app, you have a data breach or just a totally broken product. The critique here is that agencies sell you on the flash, the, dribblification of design, but they don't understand the system architecture.
So they design a beautiful car that has no engine and the doors don't open.
That's a perfect analogy. And in this era of the technical PM, if your design partner doesn't get how the database relates to the interface, they're designing a painting, not a product.
Buyer beware. Okay, let's zoom out a bit. We've talked about how we build and who builds it, but let's look at the market. There was a huge stat from 2025 that I think flew under the radar for a lot of people.
Apps overtaking games in mobile revenue.
That's massive. For a decade, the mobile economy was basically Candy Crush and Clash of Clans.
It was an entertainment console that just happened to make phone calls, but last year, that flipped. And it was driven by subscriptions and, of course, generative AI. Utility apps have just surged.
People are paying for productivity.
They're paying for creation tools, for AI assistants, for health trackers. It signals a real shift from using the phone to kill time to using the phone to save time.
But with that shift comes a much higher expectation. If I'm paying a subscription for a tool, I need to know how to use it right away.
Which brings us to Whisperflow and their onboarding. Yes, this is probably my favorite practical takeaway from the whole stack. Whisperflow realized that onboarding shouldn't be a tutorial you watch before you use the product.
The dreaded welcome tour.
Yeah.
The 5 slides that literally everyone hits skip on.
Exactly. They moved the education to the moment of action. You don't teach the user how to dictate a note until they actually open the dictation window. You teach the behavior while they are performing it.
It's habit formation, not a lecture.
Correct. If you are building complex software in 2026 and you're still forcing users to sit through a slideshow before they can click a single button, you are failing. You have to build the mental model in real time.
I love that. Just-in-time learning. Now, before we wrap up, I do want to touch on failure. Because if we're moving at AI speeds, we're going to break things.
Inevitably.
And there's this concept called post-mortem theater.
We have all been in this meeting. Something breaks. Everyone gets in a room. Someone says, I'll be more careful next time. Everyone nods. The meeting ends.
And absolutely nothing changes.
That is postmortem theater. The real insight is that you cannot fix systemic problems with behavioral promises. Real learning only happens if you change the system.
Give me an example of a system change versus a behavioral one.
A behavioral change is, I'll double-check the config file. A system change is, I wrote a script that automatically validates the config file before every deployment, so it's now physically impossible to deploy a bad one.
So if you didn't change the code, the tool, or the process, you didn't really learn anything.
You're just waiting for the next person to make the same mistake.
This all circles back perfectly to where we started on this Product Thursday, on a Friday. We're moving from managing people to orchestrating systems.
That is the through line. Whether it's the technical PM designing workflows or leaders managing wait times or fixing failures, it's all about system design.
Which brings us to the final thought to leave everyone with: hope, context, and control.
This is really the philosophical anchor here. AI gives us effectively infinite velocity, but velocity without direction is just chaos.
So the conflict is between what?
It's a conflict between control and sense-making. We can use these tools to tighten control, to monitor more, to enforce rigid processes, to turn humans into cogs in a much faster machine. Or we can use them to expand context.
To give humans the information and the power to make better judgments.
Right. The New York Times product team was mentioned as a really positive example. They're not just using AI to churn out content, they're using technical skills to build systems that support trustworthy journalism. They're using the tech to advance a human mission.
So the choice is ours. Do we use AI to build a faster treadmill or a better map?
That is the question every product manager needs to be asking themselves right now.
Well, on that note, I am going to go check on my own agentic workflow. I asked it to optimize my grocery list based on my caloric intake, and I have a vague fear that I now own 300 pounds of raw pasta.
Velocity turning into waste, a classic.
Exactly. Thanks for listening to The Vocal Technologist. Keep building, keep questioning the metrics, and we'll see you next time.
Spoken Tech for your ears.